Hey, Tabe here with another episode of cinemART. This week we'll be covering the unaired episode of Hannibal. This week I was going to be wearing another mustache like last week. Unfortunately, it is so humid today that nothing's sticking to my face. So today we'll be analyzing Hannibal. Hannibal is a really great series to analyze because it utilizes a lot of fine art influences without just the literal objects within the scene. This also means that the analysis is a little bit more opinionated, so if you have your own approach to the analyses, I would love it if you would post them down in the comments below because it would be fantastic to hear your opinion as well. This unaired story surrounds a group of young boys, dubbed the Lost Boys, who were kidnapped by a motherly figure and brainwashed into killing their biological families. Each boy saves the mother for last. When Will Graham, the show's protagonist, retreats into his mind to empathize with the yet unidentified murderer, the camera tracks backwards, revealing a large painting behind him on the wall of the dining room. This is not a painting one would typically place in their dining room. It's very dark, both in color and subject. Because of that, we can guess that it was put there intentionally. Unfortunately, I can't readily identify the painting, but it looks to be very neoclassical. Please feel free to correct me. In this case, the history of the piece is a little bit less important because we're more concerned with the subject of the piece. This painting depicts a mother embracing her child while a group of people speculate around her. It's a dark scene that spotlights them and effectively alienates them from the others around them. Knowing the plot of this episode, we can match the mother and child in the painting with either A, the mother that kidnaps the children and brainwashes them, or B, the biological mother that forgives her child for killing her. Keep in mind that we see this painting before we know the actual plot. I like to call this foreshadowing. Sometimes Hannibal and other film and television shows will be inspired by the fine arts, and production designers and directors will set up a scene that directly references that artwork. At the beginning of this episode, Will sits in Hannibal's office and talks about his house.
Sometimes at night I leave the lights on in my little house and walk across the flat fields. And when I look back from a distance, the house is like a boat on the sea. It's really the only time I feel safe.
The shot of Will's house looks a lot like Todd Hido's photography series, Homes at Night. His series inspired reviews and poetry. Luke Sante writes, "Think of the traveler of a century ago, seeing a lit window up ahead on the lonely road, and cheering up at the prospect of hospitality. That has vanished without a trace. The lit window now stands between you and a possibly deadly unknown. Behind those lit windows, killers are dismembering their victims." These pieces remind me a lot of Hannibal, and in particular Will's uncomfortable, empathetic gift. Seeing his house in the distance gives him a lot of comfort because it's his safety. Perhaps this is why it's so distressing when Hannibal is suddenly in his house later in the episode. He is the killer in the window. Homes are really important in depicting nuances and characters' personalities, and Hannibal's house is no exception. Hannibal's house really embodies the Roman house and social identity philosophy. This is a philosophy that dates several hundred years before Christ. The most important indicator of a person's status was the view of the house. The idea was that elite house owners wanted their house to be as visually accessible as possible. A clear view into the house means that a patron has nothing to hide. So why would Hannibal, a wanted serial killer, keep his office where he lives? It's a brilliant strategy to quell any suspicion from the FBI. The grandness of the public office gives Hannibal authority over any guest. It's all about putting on that good show. Hannibal's excessive amount of art also goes along with this concept. The idea is that the more art you have, the more cultured you are. The more cultured you are, the more intelligent you are, and the more powerful. The art, especially in the mise-en-scène, reveals past, present, and future achievements with permanent visibility. And what I mean by that is that the art in his office remains consistent throughout the season. The Japanese prints above the sofa are no doubt nodding to Hannibal's first murder. In Hannibal Rising, Hannibal had a relationship with his Japanese aunt, Lady Murasaki. He killed a butcher who had insulted her. The fencing mask on the wall is clever, referencing the graceful sport of stabbing your opponent anonymously. The wooden horse on the ground looks a lot like a Trojan horse, which is not unlike Hannibal's position within the FBI, and subsequently, Will's mind. And lastly, the bronze stag. I don't want to go too far into our stag statue because of potential spoilers to the series, but let's just say the statue has major foreshadowing. The material the stag is made out of is equally important, because bronze statues have an interesting history. Not a lot of bronze statues survived history because they were often melted down to make weapons during war. So not only is the stag foreshadowing, but the stag is also a weapon, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. But I will probably write a meta-narrative about the stag somewhere, probably on Tumblr. So I know we barreled through this, but that concludes the analysis of Hannibal. I'm positive I'll be doing another analysis on Hannibal because the series really is just too good at including the art objects and pulling a lot of influences from the fine arts. So please don't forget to comment below with your own analyses on the artwork that we talked about in this episode of Hannibal. Please keep posting your list of TV shows and movies that you would like me to analyze in future cinemART episodes. You've been doing a really great job so far, and I am writing them all down, and you'll be seeing those popping up very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe and tell your friends about cinemART, because I do these episodes for free every Thursday. And don't forget that next week I'll be doing an analysis on the fine art found in Iron Man 2. So I'll see you then. Bye. I was gonna be wearing a mustache to appeal to the audience that likes to see women in mustaches. I'm supposed to be Rembrandt, but with this mustache and these glasses, I look a lot more like Einstein. Why?